Okay, it's going to be there'll be a stage where you need to just zoom up on those two dots there.
Yep.
You better be small and turn that.
Yeah. It's alright, you're kind of just behind it.
Yeah, I'll try to smile as well.
Please don't, we've seen that.
Oh, we're not going yet, are we?
Yeah. I can crop it, it's fine.
Alright, good morning everybody.
Morning.
I'm like kindergarten. That I can remember that. So today we're going to talk about cylinder heads, the storage of them, the different ones that you might come across, what we do to them to make sure that our customers get a good product, and just some of the different variations that you might come across. So typically when we get a new cylinder head from a supplier, one of our Italian suppliers generally, we open up the boxes and we inspect every single head. So what we do, as young Garrick will demonstrate, thank you Garrick, we have a camera that we put through all the ports. We make sure that all the ports are, so you can just put it in through there. And we make sure that all the ports are open and clear of any contamination or anything that might be left behind there. The reason why we do this is, I think probably 4 years ago we had one that had a blockage. The actual molten metal was blocked. So we do all these preventive maintenance to make sure that our customer gets good product. So we make sure that every single port is clear and open and there's no contamination in there. Thanks, Garrett. That's all good. The next thing we do is we run a magnet through it just to remove any filings or bits of metal that might still be left behind from the casting process. It does happen. This is just to get any of the big bulky stuff out of the head, particularly the coolant areas where all the coolant might flow. Okay, so this head is pretty clean. We've already done this head. This was taken out of the shelf. So this head was ready to go. We do put a shipping number on there, which we can identify exactly where this head comes from and what batch it is, and we know a lot about where the history of this head. And if there's any other problems down the road, we might pull all that same batch number out and check them if that becomes a problem. Yeah, so I think that should be good. With storage of heads, if you clean this head today and put it in a shelf, in 6 months you might sell it, you might get scale that might come off here. So mechanics need to wash a cylinder head, doesn't matter how clean it looks, before they install it. Right. We do a lot of loaded heads, so when we get a head from overseas, it comes in a box like that, and then we go and add valves in, so that makes it a little bit thicker. So when you install loaded heads, do not put them on top of each other, because you'll end up damaging the valves. Any questions on the storage? Cover anything?
No, it's good so Hey, when you said you wash, the mechanic washes them, what do they, how do they?
Basically you put a high pressure hose in there.
What, water?
Yeah, water. Blow out as much as you can. Some of the guys use acid bars and those sort of things, but normally we do that when we load the head, we do that in the process before we assemble. But yeah, hot water, high pressure hose, those sort of things.
Obviously that's where the water goes through the head to cool it down anyway.
That's correct.
Okay.
Different cylinder heads. Different cylinder heads are the original old heads from Caterpillar came with a pre-combustion chamber, which is the cylinder head has got these big holes in it. I don't know if you can see there. Okay, that's to enable a chamber like this to fit in those holes. So this is a PC, we call it a PC, which means pre-combustion chamber. Then Caterpillar went to a direct injection system, which is just a little injector like that. And the difference is now, instead of this massive big hole and these chambers, they had just a little hole for this to fit through. So that is what we call like a pencil injector. And that, it would just be a tiny little hole where that injector would fit in there. So that's how you know the difference between a PC, pre-combustion chamber cylinder head, or DR, a direct injection cylinder. If you had to look at it, that's the way you know. There are spacer plate cylinder heads and there are non-spacer plate cylinder heads. So the spacer plate heads have a plate in between the block. I don't want to go too much into this because I'll be here all day. But that just has different ports to allow the coolant to go through. On what we supply a spacer plate head for a non-spacer plate because it's just got extra ports, and those ports will be blocked up with the gaskets. So that's common. That's what CAT does as well. So I just want to go back to the injection system and the big difference there. So as I said to you, this particular head is a pre-combustion chamber head. These have different washers that come with the pre-combustion chamber. So that goes over there, all right? Now, when you guys pick, you might wonder why a 4-cylinder head, you have a pack of 3 times 4. So you have 12 of these washers, when in fact it only takes 4. If you look carefully at these washers, they have different thicknesses, all right? So that one there and that one there, they're all different thick. You can see that one's a bit thinner. So typically what you would do when you're assembling a cylinder head, you would put the washer on. Now I've left the what do you call this? Yeah, you guys are with me. The glow plug in here, and you insert it into the hole and screw it in. Now that glow plug would will end up, sorry you guys, I can't see that side. That glow plug with that washer, once you've tightened it up, will end up somewhere, like a bolt would end up somewhere in the radius of this head, where it'll end up. If you tighten this chamber and that glow plug catches between, now every head's got they've got little dots over here. Okay, you can see I've just marked it in the white thing so you can see. If your glow plug ends up in that area, when you come to put your tappet cover on, the electrical wire is going to catch on the tappet cover. Then you know to take that out, because your chamber's ending in the wrong place. You'll take that washer out and you try a different washer, and then you would screw it back in, and your chamber with its glow plug needs to be away from the tappet cover. So effectively, you guys can't see it. When you screw it in, you want your glow plug to be away from the tappet cover, otherwise it could cause a short. So that's why you get a whole bunch of washers. That's the only reason. Okay. Any questions on that? That's sort of straightforward. Okay. With the pre-combustion chamber type, you get the injector nozzle looks like that. You can see it's got a adapter and just a little nozzle. We supply diesel brand nozzles, so the highest quality they can get in the aftermarket. They're really good quality, and we do that on our direct injections as well. This fits into that like that, right, and then it gets tightened up. So that's your fuel injection system. On the direct injection, what I mentioned earlier, those of you listening, this fitted straight into the hole, so it doesn't have one of these. Right? A little trick to mechanics, you don't get a piece of pliers and you don't tighten this up. You actually flip that on like that, it locks up there, and that's what you do. So you actually go like that, it locks, and that's it. You don't get pliers and tighten this up. Just a little trick. Okay. So to finish off, I'll just talk about some of the components in the head. Valves, we load a lot of our own heads here locally, just so we can control the quality. We use a high quality RPD valve, American-based company. They've got a really good name that we built it in Australia. We use all their components when we assemble a head. The valve goes that way, it seats on the seat this side, and then the strings go there. RPD use their rotators come with a little seal, and that seal just keeps the oil as it is assembled. So just some of the components we do. So our heads are locally assembled, just quality control. When we put those pre-combustion chambers in, the head is it's pressure tested, the head is beautifully cleaned and checked and all that. So our loaded heads are of good quality. And yeah, then that's it. Are there any questions on it? No? Some of the common problems we have with the heads, they crack. If you have a hot fluids inside a cylinder head and you put a cold fluid, cold and hot metal, quite often cracks. That's why you get cracking in the cylinder heads. You get wear on these guards here, but mostly cracking is the biggest problem with cylinder heads. It's normally due to very temperature. Somebody forgets to put coolant in. You get to put coolant in the motor car, and you suddenly go and put cold coolant in, bang, it's going to crack. So be aware of that. Thank you.
Thanks, Peter.